Hey, welcome to Daily Beard for November 1st, 2019. So, October's done. Usually October we watch horror movies. We only watched a few because the girls and me and Beth are also busy. But we did that. So, from November 1st to November 11th, we watch war movies. Because November 11th is Remembrance Day. And we always watch a particular war movie on that day usually. I'll talk about that more on that day probably. But Remembrance Day to me is like, it's not, I've never gone out and froze my butt off in a ceremony and stuff, but I think it's important to remember it. I really do. And I've never been in the military. I never get a chance to be in the military. My daughter wants to be in the military, and that scares me, but also makes me super proud. And if World War II, if I'd been alive, I'm sure I would have gone. Probably would have died, but I would have gone. So yeah, Remembrance Day is it's something I like to think about. I wear a poppy usually. I usually wear 4 or 5 because they all fall off, and I buy new ones all the time. But I'm okay with that to a degree because it's constantly giving money to veterans. So tonight, we normally would watch a bunch of different war movies, but we're not going to do that this year. I mean, we watch 1 or 2, but we're watching something different. So after Saving Private Ryan came out, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg got together and as producers and made this thing called Band of Brothers. And Band of Brothers is basically like Saving Private Ryan, but extended edition. It's basically like a realistic look at World War II from the American side, and what like starts before D-Day and then goes through D-Day and all the way to the end, literally to the end, with the 101st Airborne, which were the first airborne battalion. And so I think it's 8 or 10 episodes. HBO made this, and it's really amazing. It's really well done. Great, a lot of great actors in it. A lot of actors were like, that guy's in it, and that guy's in it, and that, it's like people that back then, some of which I didn't know. Like some of them, you're like, oh, that guy's great, that guy's great. I know that guy. But there was a bunch that now are stars. Like when this was made a while back. Now some of these, like Damian Lewis, who's done a ton of stuff, is in this as one of the main characters. I didn't know who he was when this came out, but he's done a lot of stuff since. He did Homeland and Billions and stuff like that. So what I actually saw this the first time, the Pacific. So this is Band of Brothers and Pacific. I saw the Pacific first, and the Pacific's all about the fight against Japan. Because they did Band of Brothers, they made that, and then like I didn't have a really good clarification of the World War II. Like I thought at one point, like when I was younger, I thought Germany and Japan were just like buddies. But no, like they just kind of were having a war at the same time. Like they didn't attack each other ever, but they weren't buds in the same way. Like they weren't besties that were planning things together. But so like I didn't fully understand. There was basically 2 wars going on. There was the Europe, and then there was Asia. So so the Pacific's all about the Marines going and fighting Japan. And I actually watched that the first time. And then I went back and watched Band of Brothers. And they're both incredibly well made. They're very different stories because they're very different wars, even though it's the same war, World War II. But they're different aspects of the wars. So Japanese and the Germans are very different soldiers. I would be really interested to know what it would have been like if the Japanese and the Germans had fought each other. That would have been very interesting. But that never happened. So we're watching Band of Brothers this year. Hopefully we're going to watch it all over the next week and a half. And then next year, hopefully going to watch the Pacific with my daughters. Let them see that. So, oh, the other thing I want to talk about was Remembrance Day. I don't do anything Christmassy until after Remembrance Day. I don't really do Christmassy stuff until December 1st. But I prefer people don't do it before Remembrance Day. I don't want to hear Christmas carols. I don't want to see Christmas lights on. No, that's me personally. Everyone can do what they want because people died for our freedoms to do that crap. It's like that's the way life is. But I personally don't like to do anything until I want Remembrance Day to be finished. I want it means something. A bunch of people died so that we could be free. So I like to remember that. And so we don't do Christmas stuff before that. I don't hate you or think you're a terrible person if you do. I prefer we don't, you know, so. And I've lost friends over that, believe it or not. So that's another story. Anyways, you have an awesome day. I'm going to go eat dinner soon, and then we're going to watch Band of Brothers. God bless, and watch a war movie, and think of that, because we're free today. God bless.